Welcome to the Synergy Podcast, the space where we redefine how we move, heal, and experience our bodies. My name is Ariana Montanari, a yoga teacher, soap maker, and beekeeper, and really advocate for a pain-free life driven by pleasure. Here, we break free from the unspoken rules that tell us how we should look, how we should move and feel. And through intuitive movement, self-care, and deeper connection with nature, we explore what it truly means to live without tension, pain, or limitations. So whether you're a yogi, a seeker, or simply curious about stepping into a more liberated way of living, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. And we're here for today's episode of the Synergy Podcast. Today we're welcoming here Sharee, Conrad. She is a licensed acupuncturist, herbalist, and Ayurvedic practitioner with over 20 years of experience in the field of healing. And of course, she is much more than just these titles that I have just named. I met Sharee in a common container for business, embodied business women with our coach, Casey Warwick. And I got so inspired by what she's working with and what she's practicing in her life that I thought it would be beautiful to have her here today and share about what she knows and works with. So thank you, Sharee. Thank you for being here today. I would like to leave you the floor and ask you to talk a little bit about yourself. Say if I missed something that you think it's important that people know about you. And then I have a follow-up question on that.
Thank you, Ariana. I am honored to be here on your podcast. And yeah, I always say that my work is rooted in love. That's what living prem means, living in love. So living in love for the body, the earth, spirit, coming home to the spirit. And yes, I'm licensed in acupuncture and Chinese herbalism. I went to school for Ayurveda and I'm currently based in Austin, Texas. But a big part of my work is working with women and helping them to come back home to their body, to their womb, to their overall physiology as women so that they can come back into balance and really thrive.
Thank you for that. So my follow-up question, and then I in my head while you were talking, there were many more because I can see already, let's talk about this and that. Right now, what is your relationship with your body? And I ask you this because I have just guessed it in another podcast right before you and I met here online, and I've been asked this question, and I thought it was such a beautiful way to start this conversation, to bounce back the question to you. So what is, right now, your relationship with your body? What is present for you?
It can go in many directions, but I would say that really connecting with my body and my nervous system means having regularity in practice. So I've practiced yoga for over 20 years. I practice about 5 to 6 days a week. It can look different each week just based on my cycles and where I'm at with that. And so I really tune in and listen to what my body needs. And that looks like changing my yoga practice or other embodiment practices that I'm needing at that time. That can look like changing my diet or feeding my hormones properly so that I can feel good in my body and my brain. And it can look like, I like to get outside every day, first thing in the morning, get some sunshine, make sure that I am moving my body, moving the blood, moving the oxygen, and not maintaining stagnant energy, where that's what, acupuncture is all about, moving the blood and the oxygen throughout the body to move any blocks that we might have and get everything flowing freely. And so that's pretty much, I'm always tuning in to what is my body needing right now, what's my nervous system needing right now. And that really is based on the different hormonal cycles that I'm going through.
So at the beginning of this conversation, just a few minutes ago, you said that you help women reconnecting with their bodies and all the cycle that we have. So if you were to meet a woman who has no experience in this type of work, what is usually the first thing that you guide her through? Or a man, but right now let's focus on women. So what is the first step into reconnecting with your body?
Yeah. So generally, I ask a lot of questions the first time that we meet. I will ask questions around their menstrual cycle. I'll ask questions around their digestion, their sleep cycles, how much they're sleeping, how well they're sleeping, and what their menstrual cycle looks like. So, are they experiencing PMS? Are they experiencing breast tenderness, sleeplessness as they get closer to their menstrual cycles? Do they experience a lot of cramping or pain? But I keep it very macro in the sense of I'm just asking these questions. I'm not explaining necessarily why, because a lot of women don't even know the last date of their menstrual cycle. They don't necessarily track it. And for the women who do track it, they're just tracking it. They're not necessarily paying attention to all the signs and symptoms. Yet they know them, they're just not really understanding why they're happening. So I'll ask lots of questions, and then I'll give them a framework to work with until the next time that we meet. And I'll ask them to keep track of this period of time, and we'll look at how does their overall 28-day cycle or 22-day cycle, 32-day cycle look, and understand what hormones are at play. And slowly we'll unwind what's going on with their body and why it's out of balance. So really, I generally ask questions around their menstrual cycle and digestion and sleep because those are the things that get most disrupted in the luteal phase. In the luteal phase, women's hormones will go off in a way that will have them up and down throughout the night, blood sugar imbalances, and bowel movements will become really tight. They will feel discomfort. And then when they do get their menstrual cycles, they'll often be experiencing more cramping and pain. And it all starts throughout the whole cycle, but the luteal cycle is where everyone starts to feel it the most. So that's the second half of the cycle. And so I start to bring it up so that they can really feel it in their body and understand, oh, this is happening and it's a regular thing that's happening. It's not just all over the place. Because a lot of women are like, I don't understand, I feel terrible all the time. But they don't realize there are windows where they're feeling good and there's windows where they're feeling less than optimal. And once we get them to understand when those cycles are, we can figure out when we need to shift things so that that doesn't occur in that way. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Would you like to explain a little bit more about the whole cycle? You spoke about the second half. Can you draw a picture of us as think of some beginners who are listening to this episode? Tell us about the cycle and the hormones that are more present in some phases than the other.
So day one of the menstrual cycle, the first day of bleed, is day one. And that will be anywhere from 1 to 5 to 7 days. And that time period in Chinese medicine, we look at that as the water element, and you can relate it to wintertime. And wintertime, we need to rest more. We're more still, and we need to keep warm. And that's what our bodies really need. They need us to slow down, rest, stay warm. You don't want your womb getting cold while you're menstruating, because when you menstruate, that will stop the free flow of blood. So we want to just stay warm and rest. And during this time, on day one, maybe even a couple of days before, a woman's hormones will crash. This is how we come to menstruate. Without that crash, we won't menstruate. So once the crash happens, maybe 24 hours to 48 hours later, a woman will begin to menstruate. Once she menstruates, it can take a few days before the hormones start to come up again. So this is the time we look at as inner winter, a time where rest is most important. And when we start to lighten up, as a woman starts to lighten up in her menstrual cycle, the hormones will start to incline. So this is inner spring. It's a time of energy starting to come back. When the energy starts to come back, oftentimes women will dive into life again, and it's too soon because they don't have all the energy back. But if you slowly come back, just like spring, right? Spring, the birds chirp earlier in the morning, animals are more out and about, but they also, it's slow. It's a slow incline. That's the estrogen cycle. We have estrogen rising at that time, and estrogen's more of our extroverted personality. As women, when estrogen is higher, there's more energy outward. There's more desire to socialize, more desire to take on more work, the ability to take on more work. The brain has more power in that way. And during that period, the estrogen is coming up and progesterone's there, it's just at a lower level. And then as women begin to go towards ovulation, this is inner summer. It is a shorter window, but it is the window that is the most energized. Women will have the most energy and even feel a little bit more aggressive, like they need to get the energy out. And then once you surpass inner summer, you go into autumn, inner autumn. And in Chinese medicine, this is the time of metal. And this is a time where you start to slow down. You're not fully in winter yet. You're not in full hibernation, but you're slowing down the pace and the rhythm. You're changing your exercise routine. And this is when progesterone's rising. Progesterone is the hormone that brings more calm in our bodies. So when we try, as women, when you try to push into speeding up, when your body's hormones are actually calming you down, you start to feel a real resistance and exhaustion because you're pushing against nature. So progesterone wants you to calm down, where this is the introverted energy. So this energy draws you more inward. And then once all of it crashes, we start over again. The menstrual cycle starts over again, and you go back into inner winter. So if you look at the menstrual cycle as simply the 4 seasons and move the way you would move within each season throughout a month, then you start to get to know your body better and not move against it, but move with it.
So beautiful. Yes. I think that is really one of the biggest things that you can learn about your body, to move with your body and not against it. It's oftentimes that you really want to give it all on some days where you actually don't have the energy for it. And instead of pushing through, it's beautiful where you can actually learn and do it, that you do step back and you do go slow and take a bit of an easier day. What is one of the biggest imbalances that you see in your patients?
I see a lot of thyroid imbalance and a lot of, it's not anemia, but lower energy resources, which is oftentimes due to not nourishing the blood enough. Women need their blood nourished regularly because of cycle and because of losing blood every month.
How do you do that?
So there's all different ways. Diet, the way that a woman eats throughout a month is really, really important, especially post-menstruation. Post-menstruation, you really want to start to increase more blood-building foods. And, you don't need as much food and you don't need as many carbohydrates because a woman's appetite is usually lower. When estrogen's higher, a woman's appetite is lower, but you still need to replenish blood. And generally you can do that through more green vegetables or animal proteins. And seeds and nuts can help with that as well. Especially pumpkin seeds are really powerful at replenishing blood. And what women need more premenstrually are more carbohydrates. They do need to feed progesterone more and increase carbohydrates and magnesium and help nourish the hormones each cycle. What I see a lot is women's thyroids go off ever so slightly because they're not able to maintain proper nourishment throughout a cycle.
Interesting. You have such a broad picture of the body, right? You have so many tools that you work with. And so I wonder, if you think back, what has been your own journey? Like, why and how did you start with acupuncture, and why did you start with Ayurvedic treatments? Like, how did it all unfold for you? What was your journey into this?
Yeah. So I actually had a really weak immune system as a child, and I was constantly sick and taking antibiotics, and started showing signs of a digestive disorder pretty young, and food allergies. So what got me into this, I would say in my early teens, actually, I started to notice the difference of how I felt when I ate certain foods. And those foods that really I had a lot of, like fast food and junk food in my life, I noticed made me feel terrible. And I would have more pain in my digestive system. So I refused to eat them. And I started to just research more things. This was early times of the computers, and I started to just look into things more and read books, and kind of refuse to, without knowing much, refuse to eat things that made me feel unwell, and only ate things that made me feel well. And from there, I actually got into a car accident that I ended up with bulging discs in my neck, and those bulging discs were pressing on cranial nerves and causing a lot of blinding migraines and a lot of pain, and I didn't want to take pain medication. So I was searching out other things that I could do, and I did do acupuncture and massage, but the thing that I found that was most productive that I could do every day was practicing yoga. So I started to practice yoga as a daily practice because it was the one thing that helped my spine stay aligned and reduce the pain and get the pressure off of my cranial nerves. So that became my main focus, was practicing yoga, and yet I was still experiencing digestive stuff. So I started to research and study more nutrition. So I ended up at the Institute of Integrative Nutrition and really dove deep into different types of nutrition and different ways of eating, meaning different food trends, veganism, vegetarianism, paleo, different ways of eating, styles of eating. And Ayurveda really piqued my interest. It made the most sense that why wouldn't we eat for our constitution, and why wouldn't we operate in a way that brought the external world into balance with our internal world. And I really didn't know much, but I just decided this was for me, and I had to study Ayurveda. So plus Ayurveda and yoga, they're sister sciences. So it made sense for me that I would want to study more of the medical side of this practice that has been so powerful for me. So I went to India, I studied in India, and then I came back and I went to the Ayurvedic Institute and dove deeper into Ayurvedic medicine. And after that, that was really, during that actually, my dean was also an acupuncturist, and one of my teachers was also an acupuncturist. She taught herbal medicine during the program. And I really wanted to go deeper into the medicine, but there was no school in the United States that had more than 2 years to the program. At that time, it was end of 2012, 2013, and there just wasn't more education for Ayurveda in the United States. I decided to go to acupuncture school. That's where my teachers guided me, and I loved acupuncture and Chinese medicine because in a way Ayurveda teaches you how to live, and it can take time. It's an applied practice with changing your routines, how you eat, your nutrition, and understanding your body more, where acupuncture is a treatment that has immediate effects. Immediate effects because it deactivates your nervous system in a way so that your body can heal itself. So it can power on all the healer cells and start to go into the areas of your body that aren't functioning properly and power them back on. Acupuncture, in that respect, I fell in love with because I could just see it. When somebody was on the table, I could see immediately the effects of the needles. And then herbal medicine and acupuncture also moves really fast. So where Ayurvedic herbs they're really great for applying to your life long term and for longer periods of time, where Chinese herbs tend to work very rapidly. They have a very potent effect. Although they can both work in their own ways long, like Chinese herbs can take time, Ayurvedic herbs can work quickly, but the pharmacopoeia in Chinese medicine is so vast, and so many of the formulas work on so many different health issues, and they're just so powerful. So I really fell in love with acupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine.
This is so interesting. Oh my goodness. I could just listen to you speak for hours. Like, yes, please go on. Wow. So, if listening to you, I realize that you have searched for, call it alternative solutions to help yourself first, right? And so, whatever worked for you, you felt that, yes, this does something, I want to help others, right? I want to learn more. I want to understand deeply the body. Beautiful.
Yes, I lost my
Go
menstrual
ahead.
cycle in my early 20s. So in my early 20s, I lost my menstrual cycle, and that was one of the key reasons I was searching for support. Is not just the digestive issues, it's that there were no answers for why I had no menstrual cycle. Doctors didn't have any reason. They were like, maybe it's PCOS, but you don't have polycystic ovaries, and maybe it's just early perimenopause. It happens to some women, and that wasn't a good enough answer. And so between the yoga helping me with the pain issues, then studying nutrition and getting it, like desiring to study Ayurveda to help my own digestive health issues. When I got into Ayurvedic school, within just 3 months of changing my diet to exactly what my teachers helped me understand would be most beneficial for my constitution, I got my menstrual cycle back completely. And so after
Wow.
4.5 years, almost 5 years of no menstrual cycle, I had my cycle back in 3 months. And so that to me was
That's
just a
amazing.
clear indicator that this works. And then for me, I wanted the gap to close, right? So many women are dealing with menstrual health issues, especially young women in their early 20s and 30s, because nobody's teaching women how to eat or how to operate according to their menstrual cycles. They're taught to hustle and work harder and work through their pain and their cramps and fast and exercise more and work harder, like train their bodies harder and increase muscle mass versus allowing a little bit more soft tissue on the body, where women will not menstruate if they're too thin. There's lots of science behind it, but there's not a lot of application to it. And often it's just a band-aid of take birth control, just try this medication, versus what are you doing in your
Yeah.
daily life that would affect what's going on, and how can we help you understand how your body needs to operate a little bit better.
Yeah, I think that there is definitely not enough education around the menstrual cycle. In my case, I track it, and I am in the phase now of really respecting it, which means that on the first day of bleeding, I really try to take it easy and like not do so much. And I feel the ovulation, so the moment where I do have more strength, and I really connect with the days before the menstrual cycle, where I feel that like, it's the energy levels are really getting low. The eating part, that's a new realm for me. I never really, I mean, I know that there is, but I haven't never really observed it in myself. Different cravings or like different foods that I wanted during the cycle, and how that affects me in return. That's super interesting.
Do you notice in your yoga practice how you shift throughout the cycle? Your capacity to do more or stretch further, or you're a little bit tighter?
Totally. I do. And you maybe can help me a little bit here, but I think that for instance, while you're menstruating, isn't it so that your joints are a little bit more delicate? right? And in other phases, you're more likely to build muscle mass compared to other moments of the cycle. Is that correct?
Well, if you think about it, when you're losing blood, you don't really want to strain other resources in the body, right? To
True
lose
that.
sweat, to lose too much sweat while you're menstruating, to overstretch, right? When we're losing blood, everything gets a little bit tighter. That's why magnesium is so good during the luteal phase, because it'll help a woman not get as tight, but it'll also help her body relax more and be able to rest more during that time. It'll also help blood flow better. So if you think about it, it really just makes sense. If somebody, had lost a whole lot of blood in an accident, you wouldn't necessarily want to strain their body, their joints, their bones, because they're needing to regenerate. We make fresh blood in our bones. So in our long bones, our femur especially, is where we regenerate new blood. And so when we're regenerating, we don't necessarily want to be pushing other resources and draining other resources. This is something that a lot of women, myself included, the trend nowadays is hot yoga, right? Infrared heated yoga. And it feels so good.
Yeah.
But when you do too much of it, if you lose too much fluids, then your body will all the other resources get strained. So it will essentially cause more tightness at the end of your cycle if you over sweat, especially during the luteal phase. So a lot of times
Over sweat.
yeah, you can sweat too much. It strains the kidneys, it strains the adrenals, it increases stress on the body. There's a certain amount of exercise induced stress that is beneficial. And then there's when you surpass that, then you put the body in a heightened stress state and you actually drain your sex hormones. So sex hormones and stress hormones work in conjunction with each other. And the stress hormones, when they run out, when you've overdone your stress hormones, they'll start to steal from sex hormones. And that's when we get an imbalance of progesterone and estrogen, is when the stress hormones are starting to steal from them. So cortisol, DHEA, they help check each other. They help keep each other in balance, where our estrogen and progesterone help keep each other in balance. And in Eastern medicine, both Chinese and Ayurvedic medicine, we look at everything as like yin and yang. We've got the sort of calming, nourishing factor, and we've got the energy, the energized state. So cortisol, what happens when cortisol spikes? We need cortisol to spike. It's what wakes us up in the morning. We naturally need a little bit of cortisol, but we don't need a ton of it pumping out all day long. If we have that happening, then we drain the resources of the body, and it eventually needs to pull on estrogen and progesterone. Progesterone can convert into cortisol, it can convert into DHEA, it can convert into estrogen, but they can't convert backwards. They can't convert into progesterone. So when we deplete the progesterone levels, this is when we see women having more difficulty with sleeping at night, and a lot more restlessness in the second part of the cycle. So basically, when it comes to over sweating or increasing stress on the body that's beyond what's natural or healthy. So you want to do it to a certain degree, but then if you're starting to notice dry mouth or dry nasal passages or more difficulty sleeping at night or hot flashes, this can happen to any woman at any stage if she's over exercising and over sweating. Not just women in perimenopause and menopause.
This is so incredibly interesting. What about restless legs? You know, when you get, when you get like pins and needle in your legs, what is that? For instance, if I cannot sleep at night, because I really recognize some of these symptoms, especially when I am in a very intense period of my life, then the legs are also a little ticklish, like I cannot sleep. And I assume that is a poor blood flow, but maybe there is also it.
Sounds as though there are multiple things behind it. So your nervous system is agitated. There's more stress. So it's having more difficulty calming down. And then your muscles get more tense, and you probably need more magnesium in your diet You can even take a magnesium supplement to help your muscles relax more. And yeah, unwinding, de-stressing, and actually pulling back a little bit on sweat, on pushing your yoga practice. You know, pushing farther into a posture doesn't always mean better. We both know this, we've shared this together. Understanding that your yoga practice looks like what is happening today, not what that person over there is doing or what I did yesterday. It's about what I need today. And a lot of times, long-term yogis really need to recognize when their body actually needs them to do a slower, calmer practice. Just because you can doesn't always mean that's the ideal thing to do. What would be ideal would be to do more nervous system deactivation in your yoga practice versus a more yang practice, which is maybe a little bit more vigorous, a little faster, more vinyasas. And rather than doing that, maybe staying on the mat more, doing more slow restorative postures that you stay in for more than 10 breaths. And you hold the posture and you allow your body to loosen on its own versus you pushing for the body to loosen.
I want to take a moment to talk about something truly special and close to the heart. Miele Strega, my own line of natural handmade body products. And as you know, I am passionate about moving with ease and feeling good in our bodies, and that extends to what we put on our skin. Each batch of Miele Strega products is crafted with love, for real, by me, using ingredients from my very own beehives and my darling bees, combined with the pure botanicals. Whether it's a soothing, luxury whipped body butter, a nourishing lip balm, or a gentle soap, everything is designed to support your body's natural rhythm, just like the practices we explore here. If you're looking for skincare that's pure, it's intentional and deeply connected and aligned to nature, check it out at mielestrega.com. And because you're a listener, I've got a special gift for you. Use the code SYNERGY10, spelled with Y and Y, for 10% off your first order. Now, back to our conversation. And this is like a perfect way for me to come in the conversation, because the synergy practice of what I teach and practice myself builds exactly on these principles. So we never wanted to, take your legs and push yourself into the forward fold. So you're kind of forcing your body to go into postures that are actually not available for you. They are only available because you're forcing your body into them. And so what we want to do is to always keep all these fluid movements, active movements that allows you to actually go deeper in the pose, but without the help, for instance, of your hands. All the movements you want it to come from your abdomen. So you are building up the movement from your core, from your powerhouse. This is where we have so many organs and the nervous system. So we want it to come from here so that we can build an actual synergetic movement. I don't put myself in a stressed position. I try to kind of build it up from the center out. And that is, like you say, it is a way to actually calm the nerve system. And during the synergy practice, you keep relaxing the abdomen, finding that natural breath, softening up your shoulders, the neck, the jaw, the gaze. And that sends signals to your body, we're safe. We're not like, oh my God, and now we're gonna do a handstand, and then we're gonna jump up again, and then we're gonna stand on one leg, and then help. And then it's like a very stressful time for your body. Although you might enjoy it, because it is also fun, let's face it. But on the long term, you are actually creating stress for the body. It's like very beautiful for me to hear also from your point of view that you can actually nurture the body, the nervous system through a more gentle practice. And the synergy practice is actually has a lot of knowledge from Chinese medicine and acupuncture points and qigong. So we see how there is so much that is connected, knowledge-wise, medicine, movement. And this leads me to my next question. This is something that I studied during my teacher training, but not in detail. So it's that idea that yoga poses, yoga asanas, and all the contact points that you have during the practice are also stimulating acupuncture points. Is that something that you can talk about? Because it's super interesting.
Sure, yes. Are you wanting to go in a direction of posturing, like certain postures that stimulate certain meridians more? Okay. So,
Exactly.
so there are 12 major meridians. There are more, but 12 major meridians that are accessible through the front of the body and the back of the body. And some start at the fingers and go up to the face. Some start at the chest and go out to the fingers. Some start at the toes and go up to the chest. And others start at the top of the head and move all the way down towards the feet. So all of the ones that really run on the front of the body, that we would consider these most yin. If we think yin and yang, masculine, feminine, lunar, solar, yin is more lunar, yang is more solar. So we kind of very simply put would say, where does the sun hit the most, right? So the sun is going to hit this whole area the most. So the back body is your yang channels more. Anything on the inside of the thighs, on the inside of the chest and stomach in this area, this is more yin. Inside of the arms, this is more yin. Outside, this is more yang. So if we think of these meridians as always having a yin and yang pair, we're activating both yin and yang even when we're doing something that's maybe more solar or more lunar. We're activating both, but one will be activated more. So when we are, let's say doing standing postures where we're folding forward, right? And that means that our whole back body is getting a nice, good, activated stretch. Now, the meridians that run most throughout the back are our urinary bladder channel, and on the sides are the gallbladder channel. So those channels are getting a nice stretch. They're getting activated. More blood and oxygen or chi get to flow through those meridians more. When we're doing perhaps Janushirshasana, where we're folding, you've got one leg folded in, but that outside of that thigh is flush against the earth, right? So that's all right on the outside of the leg there. We've got the gallbladder channel. And we've got also the stomach channel. So the gallbladder and the stomach are getting activated from that side leg that's being, flush against the earth. And then the forward fold that comes next is stretching and opening the urinary bladder channel. And then you have to think, if you're actually activating and pulling up on your inner thigh muscles, then you're now activating your yin channels as well. So when you're activating the yang channels, you have to generally activate and relax. So most of the time we're activating the yang channels and we're relaxing the yin channels, which by relaxing, we can allow more nourishment in, where when we're activating, we're sort of moving out, flushing those channels and moving them out. So maybe you're moving out heat, or you're moving out stagnation from those channels. So really it can depend on each posture. The reason they call yin yoga is because a lot of what you're doing is you're releasing the active stance of tensing the muscles, and you're really getting into relaxing, opening, and nourishing the channels more. Sounds to me a little bit like the style that you teach kind of does both. You're sort of active, relax, active, relax. So you're doing both simultaneously. But all of the meridians get activated. Even when you think about Janushirshasana again, you're placing your foot on the inner thigh. So you're actually flush up against the liver channel, the kidney channel, the spleen channel, and you're helping activate those meridians as well.
It's just
Technically,
amazing. Like, it's so fascinating.
it is so fascinating. And acupuncture
Go on.
evolved from Marma, and Marma originated in Ayurvedic medicine. It's just Marma. Acupuncture basically evolved the Marma system into furthering a further meridian system.
Like, just imagine how much we can do with our body. Being aware of all of these, call it, they're not tricks, it's just like different dimensions in our body we can work with. And the potential is, I don't know, can we say it's infinite? I have one more question for you, since we're now talking about acupuncture meridians and yoga. So if we want to connect in hormones, what is the relationship between hormonal balance and movement?
Are you speaking in respect to women or just hormonal balance as a whole?
That's a good question. I was thinking more women, but you could also name maybe also for men, if there is a difference in that aspect.
Women are lunar. We operate on a moon cycle. So the moon shifts throughout a 28-day cycle. Within 14 days, we've got a full moon or a new moon, and within another 14 or so days, we've got a new moon or a full moon. So women actually, our hormone cycles operate within that same system, that same 28-day system. Men are solar. They operate daily. Their hormones cycle daily. That's why they have the same type of energy throughout the whole month, where women, we will see changes throughout the whole month. So every week we've got a different capacity for our movement, and we really need to operate according to that specifically. Movement during the menstrual cycle needs to be really slow. You don't want to over push, just like we said earlier, don't overstretch. You want to slow down. Even in the practice of yoga and the lineage that I had originally started with, we had ladies' holiday. And in Ayurvedic medicine, there is ladies' holiday where women just rest. They rest for the first few days. And there's no practice, there's no cooking, there's just restoration and allowing your body, the apana vayu, to move downward. Apana vayu is the downward flow of energy. And without that, that's oftentimes why women are struggling to menstruate, because they're like holding up and they're moving too much and they're doing too much. And so their cycle isn't flowing freely downward. So during menses, rest. If you want to do a movement practice, make it more restorative. Slow, maybe 3-4 postures where you stay in them for long periods of time and you just allow the body to slowly shift on its own. Lots of props and blocks are really nice for forward folds versus trying to get into a forward fold, like propping up and also relaxing back, but never putting the body upside down during menstruation, because if you put the body upside down, you'll also be reversing that downward flow back up into the body. So you always want to keep everything downward, so no inversions during menstruation. Then during the follicular phase, movement can start to increase, but slowly. So you go deeper into your postures, you can increase the vigor inside the practice. And leading up to ovulation, that's when you want to do your most vigorous movement practice, stronger weights, more high intensity workouts, whatever it might be that you like to do most. It doesn't just have to be yoga, but a lot of times when you mix the two, especially for women, building bone density, doing weightlifting is really powerful and important. So you can build your weightlifting capacity from the end of your menstrual cycle into your ovulation phase, and then from ovulation down through luteal, we want to slow things down again. But it's something that women will generally feel very distinctly, the downturn in hormones and the downturn of estrogen and the upturn of progesterone is very palpable. You sort of go from having this strong energy and movement and high capacity to do a lot to feeling almost like you're moving through molasses a little bit, but it's like warm molasses at first, where it's a little bit more fluid, and then slowly the molasses cools and you just can't move as quickly through it. And if you move with that energy with your movement practice, can do it's like, a bell curve, really. If we think of increasing slowly, increasing to higher capacity, and then decreasing, decreasing, decreasing to more still movement. And that's how a woman would really ideally pair her movement practice to her hormones.
So now you have explained how to adapt to the movement, the practice, the exercise to the hormonal cycle. And if we flip it, can exercise support hormonal health?
Same thing. All of that that type of,
Same
yes.
thing.
So if you are moving within that system, it will help fire on the hormones properly. It will support the hormones in their natural rhythm if you're moving in this way of, I'm not pushing too hard at the beginning, I'm pushing much harder at the middle, and then I'm
Right.
slowly declining. Because then you're not, when you overexert at the very end, you oversweat, you do too many weights, then the exhaustion will hit that
Yeah.
much harder.
So it's like a kind of mutual relationship that to support each other. Interesting. Listen, what is like something that you would like, something about hormones that you would like everybody to know, both men and women? Something that is like so basic and you think that like a piece of information that shifts the perspective a little bit on how the body functions in connection to hormones.
I would really love more men to understand how women's hormone cycle so they could understand the value.
Yes.
Yeah. I
Yes.
think it's really
Yes to
of great
that.
value so
My
that
goodness.
we can understand each other better. It's much easier to just
Yes.
blame it on the cycle and say, oh, she's just this, she's just that. But if you understood it, creating more balance in the world would occur. Because right now, women are operating like men on a solar cycle every day, showing up and thinking that they're supposed to operate the same way. And men, quite literally, will look down at a woman if she's not operating that way and not
Yes.
look at the benefit and value of how magnificent it is that her body does not operate that way. And how can that be supported? How can that be supported so that she can operate most optimally? If we came together and understood that, and also as women, we could look at that they operate that way, that they're going to have that more regulated energy, and also say, that's awesome for you, but I don't need to operate that way. And that has a lot to do with our nervous systems, because our nervous systems have been trained to operate on a solar cycle, on a daily rhythm that we should show up in this way. So I would just love that men and women understood each other's hormone cycles more, and that women understood that it's okay to feel like concern and almost anxiety around not operating that way, because for so long women have been trained to operate this way in life, and that it can take time. It can take time to renegotiate with your body and with your mind so that you're fully connected mind, body, spirit, and that your nervous system actually feels safe in the not doing. The safety in the not doing comes with really trusting the pattern of the monthly cycle. But that doesn't happen overnight when we've been operating in these systems where we're supposed to have high capacity every day, all the time. So that would be my thing that I would just love the whole world to know and come back into balance with.
A big yes to that. It has happened to me to receive comments like, oh, but so what, like if women are menstruate, are they not supposed to work? So what, do they get like extra holidays every month? So what about productivity? And what about if it's a top elite athlete to have the Olympic Games final on the first day of menstruation? What would you answer that? Because I still have not found the good answer.
Well, I think that what's really important is to understand that everybody's capacity is going to be different, and understand that there are periods of time where we're going to override the system and do it anyway. And then there is looking at how can we live this way most of the time, and
Right.
also look at the fact that a woman doesn't need to completely do nothing, but pay attention to what's going on with her body. So I recently shared this with a client of mine. I expressed it through ocean waves, right? The ocean doesn't stop the waves. There's always waves, but how big those waves are depends on the moon cycles. So the tide and the sun and the moon in conjunction, but the tide is stronger and comes up higher onto the shoreline versus when it's farther out and it only comes up halfway. So the ocean never stops, but it doesn't overgive. So when the tide is not, when the energy of the ocean is not strong and is not pushing up all the way along the beach, it's not going to. It just doesn't. It stays right here and it comes only up as far as it goes. And so energetically, as women, if you pay attention to the inner tide of what's going on, you won't push beyond that. That doesn't mean you fully stop. You just halt. Hey, if you can make the space in your schedule, yes, great, do it. It will benefit you and your future cycles when you get the opportunity to give yourself that period of time of rest. And can you schedule yourself so that you aren't pushing the tide up when you don't have the power to? Can you schedule yourself so that when the tide is only about this high, that you are only scheduling in that level of capacity? So don't make major meetings, travel plans. Yes, the more in tune you have with your cycle, the more you'll be able to be like, oh, you know what, that's probably not the best day to schedule this meeting. When all my hormones in my brain are gonna drop and I just literally won't have the speed and capacity to have that conversation. So you just start to schedule things out ahead of time and really navigate and negotiate. Now, let's say you have to do it. You give to this degree. Mothers, they can't just say, okay, kids, we're all having a rest day. But it does mean that they can negotiate with children, right? They can create a day where they get to all settle, set them up for more play on their own, or even where mom gets to be more still while the kids play around her. That doesn't mean stop completely. It just means slow down the movement and move from a place that isn't over-giving beyond what's there. And if you have to overgive, that happens at times, then make up for it. Take a little time to rest afterwards. Does that make sense?
Totally. I think these comments that I received in the past, they come from this very male culture that is like almost exaggerating. Also, you take a day off, but like you say, no, it doesn't have to be so absolute. So no, we can just adjust. I can still go to work. I can still take care of my children. I can still do that competition at the Olympic Games. But I will not, let me use the word perform, as well intensively as I would when I'm in other moments of my period. So it's about adjusting and following that energy of giving a little bit less, but without stopping everything. That's a beautiful, exactly. Thank you so much. After all this incredible knowledge that you have shared with us, is there anything else you would like to share before we say goodbye to each other? A last message for those who are listening.
Well, I'm launching a program called Hormone Harmony. So everything that we talked about here will go into much greater depth and talk about nutrition and lifestyle and be supported as a community of women to come back home into the body, embodying this cycle and feeling more empowered to live more optimally and really allowing the nervous system to relax into trusting that the menstrual cycle is the wisdom to listen most to. So Hormone Harmony will be out at the end of October. And yeah, I would love to just share that bit of wisdom with all of your viewers and all women in the world.
Yes, more of this to all the women in the world. I got like goosebumps where you were talking about this. Listen, how do people reach you? How can they find you? How can they learn more about hormonal harmony?
So you can find me on Instagram, Sharee_livingprem, SHAREE_LIVINGPREM. That's the main way. I have all my links in my Instagram. And I also have my website, livingprem.com. And yeah, I would say that is the best way to get in touch. I'll have the link to Hormone Harmony up on Instagram. I'm going to be offering a masterclass next Monday on the luteal phase. So that'll be up there for anybody interested, as well as the link to read more about what we'll dive deep into in the program.
Beautiful. I will link your Instagram in the description of this episode so that people can connect with you if they felt particularly inspired by this episode. I was, so I am so incredibly grateful that you decided to come and share your knowledge, and just listening to your voice. You have one of these voices that you can just listen, as I said already, like forever. It's just so enchanting. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Ariana. It's been a great honor to share in the wisdom of yoga with you and chat about all these things. So thank you for having me on the podcast.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Synergy Podcast. I hope this conversation sparked something within you, a new way of thinking, feeling, or moving. If you love this episode, let me know. Share it, leave a review, or connect with me on Instagram at mielestrega. And if you're ready to go deeper, check out my yoga offerings, come to a yoga class at the studio, and check out my handmade natural body products at mielestrega.com. Remember, your body is yours, your pleasure is yours, and living pain-free as possible. Until next time, move with ease and live with joy.